Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something pretty amazing. We're going to follow the incredible journey that takes a simple question, one that might pop into a nurse's head during a busy shift, and turns it into a breakthrough that can change care for millions. Yep, we're talking about the nursing research process. So, have you ever wondered how that happens? A nurse on the floor notices something, asks why, or thinks, there has to be a better way. Well, this is the story of how that little spark gets methodically and carefully fanned into the flame of powerful, evidence-based practice. So what is nursing research, really? At its heart, it's not just casual problem-solving or going with a gut feeling. It's a super rigorous, structured method, and the goal is crystal clear: to make patient care better and safer using solid evidence, not just because that's how we've always done it. To really get our heads around this journey, we're going to walk through 5 main phases. Think of this as the roadmap that guides every single nursing research study, from a small question on one unit to a massive clinical trial. Now, as we look at this process, you'll notice it's not really a straight line. It's more like a circle. Each step builds on the last one, and funny enough, the final results often just spark brand new questions, starting the whole journey all over again. So keep this image in your mind as we go through each phase. Okay, let's dive into phase 1, the conceptual phase. You can think of this as the thinking stage. It's where a general idea, maybe a hunch or just a nagging clinical problem, gets sharpened and focused into a real researchable question. You see, the absolute best research questions are born from reality. They come directly from the challenges nurses face every day. But here's the special nursing twist. The problem has to be significant to nursing practice, not just medicine in general. It's all about improving the art and science of how we care for people. The real key here is to take that initial problem and whittle it down. You might start with a pretty broad concern, like, hey, patient falls seem to be up on our unit. From there, you dig into the existing research. And finally, you craft a sharp, testable question, often using what's called the PICO format to define your patient, intervention, comparison, and outcome. All right, on to phase 2. This is all about creating the blueprint for discovery. This is the design and planning phase, where you basically write the detailed recipe that's going to guide the whole study. And a huge decision you have to make right here is about your method. Are you going quantitative, focusing on numbers and stats to measure an effect, or are you going qualitative, exploring the why and the what it's like through patient experiences? The question you're asking really dictates the path you take. But before a single piece of data is collected, researchers have to face a step that is absolutely paramount in nursing: protecting the very people at the center of the study. This ethical responsibility is what truly sets this field apart. And that is the ethical guardrail. I mean, think about it. A chemist can mix stable compounds all day long, but nurse researchers work with people, and often very vulnerable people. So every single study has to be approved by an institutional review board, or IRB, to protect patient safety. This is totally non-negotiable. It makes sure you can never, ever, for example, assign a patient to get subpar treatment just to see what happens. So, with a solid ethical plan locked in, we enter phase 3, the empirical phase. This is the doing stage, where the blueprint is finally put into action and the data collection officially begins. And data can come from just about anywhere. It might be numbers from a survey, physiological readings like blood pressure, direct observations of behavior, info pulled from health records, or even those rich stories you get from patient interviews. But here's the real challenge: consistency. To make sure the results are reliable, every single piece of data has to be collected in precisely the same way. If you have 3 different people taking measurements, their process has to be completely identical. Any little variation could throw off the entire study. So, once all that evidence is gathered, we move on to phase 4, the analytic phase. Now that we have all this raw information, it's time to transform it into something meaningful. This is kind of the moment of truth. All that planning and careful collection has led to this, a mountain of data. The big question now is, what does it all mean? So, the raw data gets organized, usually into tables like this one, where you can compare different groups. Researchers use statistical software to hunt for patterns and see if the differences between groups are actually meaningful. Okay, let's just focus on one thing here. See that p-value next to SpO2, or blood oxygen saturation? That tiny number, 0.009, is a big deal.
In research, a low p-value like this suggests that the difference in oxygen levels between the groups is statistically significant, which is a fancy way of saying it's almost certainly not a random fluke.
And finally, we arrive at phase 5, the dissemination phase. The journey is not over once the analysis is done. In a lot of ways, the most important step is just about to begin. The findings have to be shared. This happens by publishing in academic journals, presenting at conferences, and, this is the most crucial part, translating the results into new clinical protocols and standards that nurses everywhere can actually use. And this really gets to the heart of it all. Research isn't just some academic exercise. Its whole purpose is to make a real, tangible, positive impact. It's about taking a discovery out of a research paper and putting it directly into the hands of a nurse on the night shift to improve a patient's outcome. And that brings us right back to where we started, the hospital floor. This whole rigorous process is what turns those everyday questions into the evidence that shapes modern healthcare. So I guess the final question is, what problem do you see that's just waiting for its own journey of discovery?